Hello everyone, welcome to my series on VBScript programming, and today we're going to discuss arrays in VBScript with few use cases. Now if I have to define array in a very simple term, array would be a variable which contains a collection of values, and those values can be referred using a numeric index. So if I have to give a very basic example, let me say I define an array saying array1, and that contains a collection of values such as B, C. Don't go by the syntax is not correct. I'm just giving an example. So suppose this is an array and it contains a collection of value, or basically three strings A, B and C. Now the position of these strings always is 0 based. So if I say array 1 0, it will always refer to the first one. Similarly, array 1 index 1 will refer to the second one, and 2 will refer to the third one. So that's how we define arrays, and that's how we refer to the array values. Now let's see how we declare arrays in VBScript. So we can easily declare an array using a predefined size. So if I say dim arr3, this means that this array can hold 4 values starting from 0 all the way to 3. If I have to assign values to this, I can easily use this statement, array 0 equal to A, 1, 2, 3, and I can put, let's say, B, C and D. And if I put a message box with the values just change the values to 2, 1 and 0. Save it and let's run this. So it says ABCD. So basically that's how we refer to the values inside an array using this index, and the size that we define here is the highest index of that array. So if I say array 3, it means the array contains 4 values. Now one more way of defining the array is with the values in the beginning. So if I say arr equal to array A, B, C and D, and if I put the same message box again saying arr 0 ampersand so this becomes 3, this becomes 2 and this becomes 1. If I save this and run this, it again gives the same result. So those are two ways how we can define array, how we can initialize values to an array. Now let's look at multi-dimensional arrays. So we can have arrays of, this is a linear array, single dimension, where an array contains a list of string variables. We can also have two-dimensional arrays where each element of the array in itself is another array. So we can define that something like this. Let's remove this and put 3, 3. So now this means that this array contains 4 rows and 4 columns. So we can assign values to this such as 0, 0 equal to A. Let me just duplicate this and increment the values like this, 0, 1, 2, 3, and over here again 0, 1, 2, 3, here 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, remove this. So let's say this array should contain 4 rows and 4 columns. As of now I'm just defining, so this is the first coordinate. I'm ranging this from 0 to 3 for value 0 in the second index. This is the first index, again starts from 0 to 3, and this is again for 1. So if I have to run this loop now if I try to find the Ubound, so there are two indexes, there's the X index and there's the Y index. Now if I need to find the Ubound, there should be two different values of Ubound. Let's say, for the sake of understanding, let's make it 2 and let's see message box ARR, sorry, Ubound ARR 1 and message box Ubound ARR 2, and let's run this and see what happens. So ARR 1 returns 3 and ARR 2 returns 2, which means that the Ubound of the first index is 3 and the Ubound of the second index is 2. So now if I have to run a loop for this, I would say for I equal to 0 to Ubound ARR and first index. Inside that I would run one more loop saying j equal to 0 to Ubound ARR second index and message box ARR I comma j. Next, first for loop end, and this is the second for loop end. Now if I just run this thing, so I get a, okay, so since all the values are same, I'm getting like this. Let me just change the values. This becomes b, this becomes c, this is d, then we have e, f, g, h. So we have a and then we have e. So why did we get e here? So a is 0 0 and then the loop goes for 0 1 because the j is incrementing. So for each value of I, the j is getting incremented. So for I equal to 0, j goes from all the way from 0 to 2. So I is 0 0 is a, 0 1 is e, and since we don't have any 0 2, the next value should be a blank, which is blank. Now the next value is b, which is 1 0. Then we have f, which is 1 1, and the next value should be a blank. The next value is c, which is 2 0. Then we have g, which is 2 1, and then again blank. Similarly we have d and we have h and blank. So these are the values of the two-dimensional arrays. So this is how we can loop through two-dimensional arrays. Now let's try to put this on a use case and see how we can understand it better. Okay, to understand the array example better, I have created a simple table in an Excel sheet where I have just kept 4 columns and 4 rows. And in my VBScript, I have kept an array with the index values as 3, 3, which basically means that this index goes from 0 to 3, which is 4, and this also goes from 0 to 3, which is 4 elements. So we have a two-dimensional array of 4 by 4. Now, let's try to read the Excel values from this sheet and populate these Excel values in this array. To do that, we will start with creating an Excel object. Then we create a workbook object. And we give the path of our Excel sheet. So let me just close this and let me just put the path test.xlsx, and we create a sheet object which is obj workbook object dot worksheets and sheet 1. Now we need to run a loop, and we need to make sure that the right values are going to, so the right indexes in this two-dimensional array. So we want the row values to be populated with the rows and the column values to be populated with the columns. So let's start a for loop for I equal to 0 to Ubound of ARR first index, so that's our row index, and for j equal to 0 to Ubound ARR 2, that's our column index, and we say ARR I comma j is equal to sheet 1, sorry, obj sheet dot cells is it cells? Okay, let me see. And we say I plus 1 j plus 1, because the cell indexes in Excel sheet, they are not 0 based, they are 1 based. So for the first element, the array will start from 0, but the sheet indexes are starting from 1. So array will go from 0 to 3, but the sheet cell indexes will go from 1 to 4. Let's see if this works. Let's just do a message box of right after assignment. We can, in the message box, we can show what is the value getting assigned, and let's run this and see. Okay, I think it's workbooks. And run this again. Okay, so we start with 1, then we have 2, 3, and 4. Then we have double 1, double 2, double 3, and double 4. Similarly, triple 1, triple 2, triple 3, and triple 4. Then 4 1s, 4 2s, 4 3s, and 4 4s. So if you open the Excel file, we see that the first row got assigned all the columns, then the second row got assigned, then the third row got assigned, and at last the fourth row got assigned. So the first row was for I equal to 0, the second row was I equal to 1, third row was I equal to 2, and fourth row was I equal to 3, and the column values were coming from the j index. Now let's say the whole purpose of doing this exercise is to transpose the values. So if I do a copy here, and if I go for right click, paste special, transpose, it comes like this. So let's say we are trying to bring the values from here to here. Instead of a copy paste, we're trying to do it from VBScript, but we need to transpose the values. So how do we do that? Let's just save this file. And okay, let me just go ahead and create a sheet 2, and whatever data we have in sheet 1, that will come to sheet 2. Save it, close it, come back to our code. So here we have just populated the array. Now we need to set the value back to sheet 2. So let me just create one more object for sheet 2, obj sheet 2 equal to obj workbook worksheets sheet 2. Okay, now the values in the rows should go to columns, and the values in the columns should go to rows. So if I just reverse the indexes for j equal to 0 to Ubound ARR 2, for I equal to 0 to Ubound ARR 1, and we say obj sheet 2 dot cells. In this case, we are going through the columns first, and we need them to come out as rows. So we say j plus 1 and I plus 1, and sorry, we need this equal to ARR, and we want the values from the rows to go to columns, and from the columns they should go to rows. So we just mention I comma j over here, and next, and let's just see if this works. So if I save it, and let me just make that Excel visible is true. So obj excel dot visible equal to true. Save it and run this. So this is the first loop running. It's done. And if you see, compare the values of sheet 1 and sheet 2, they are the exact transpose of each other. So sheet 1 we have 1, 1, 1, double 1, triple 1, 4 ones are coming in the same column. Here these are coming in the same rows. Similarly for the second row, third row, and fourth row. So I've just taken a very random example or a use case to illustrate how arrays work on VBScript. So this is how you can utilize two-dimensional arrays in VBScript. Now let's see what are the different functions possible in an array. Let me just remove all these things, and Let me create a single dimensional array where we say okay, so I've just put 4 values in this array. Now if I say message box join ARR and the delimiter is let's say pound, let's see what happens. Okay, let me just close this Excel sheet and save it. Run this again. Okay, it says type mismatch, line 6 character 1 type mismatch. Okay, there's a problem here. Okay, let me just remove this definition from here. So run this again. Okay, so what did we do right now? Let's open the code and show this. So we populated an array with some predefined values, sorry, A, B, C, D, and we said join this array with the delimiter pound. So we are joining each element of the array in a single string with this delimiter. So suppose we can use a comma delimiter to make a comma separated string out of the array elements. So this is how the join function works. Okay, let's see one more function for arrays. Let's remove this, and let's say we have, instead of a array variable, let's say ARR is a string variable which contains the string, let's say test1 pound test2 pound test3 pound test4, and that's a single string which is separated by the pound sign. Now we can create an array out of this string. Let's say our array is array equal to split the string using pound. So what the split function does is it splits an existing string with the delimiter that is in that string, and the individual elements that come out, that becomes part of this array. Now to understand how many elements came, let's just message box the upper bound of array, save it and run this. Is the name giving problem? Yes. Okay, so since array is a keyword, we could not put array over there. We have just changed the name. And let's go back to our code, open the message box same time. So if you see that these are the delimiters, pound here and here and here. So you have total 4 values that are going inside the array. So since there are 4 values, the array index starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, and that becomes the upper bound. That's why 3 is coming. So this is how we can use the split function to convert an existing string into an array. Now let's see another function to basically find string or patterns inside an array. So let's say this string has 1, 2, 3. This has 4, 5, 6. This has 5, 6, 7, and this has 7, 8, 9. Now this is a string. So okay, let me just define this as str for the sake of clarity. We put str over here, and we say our array is split of str of pound. Now array contains the 4 values which are coming out of this split. Let's say we create one more array which says array containing 3. So this array is basically an array out of these elements, an array of strings which contain the value 3. So to do that, we use the find function. We put our original array and we say 3. Let's see the Ubound of this new array containing 3. Let's see if it gives anything. Go back, run this. says type mismatch. Okay, so this should, okay, so it's not fine. Let's filter, save it, and run this. So it says 0. So since Ubound is 0, it means that this array contains only one element. So if you check the values, this is the first value, this is the second value, this third value, and this is the fourth value. Only one value contains 3. The remaining values don't contain 3. So this array contains only one value, and hence Ubound is returning the uppermost index, which is of course 0 for the first element. Now let's say this array name is array containing let's say 5, and we are doing a filter of this array for 5, and let's see the upper bound. So upper bound is 1, which means that now there are 2 elements in this array because the 5 exists in 2 positions. So instead of this, if I just put 0 and put some space and just copy this, paste 1, save it, run this. Oops, sorry, this should not be Ubound now. It's just a message box, so just trying to pull out the elements of that array. It says test 456 and test 567. So 456 is this value which contains 5, and 567 is this value which contains 5. So both the values are coming out. So this is how the filter function works. So today we have seen arrays in VBScript. We have seen single dimensional arrays, we have seen 2-dimensional arrays, we have seen how to use arrays to bring data out of Excel sheet and store it in an array, and then take the values of an array and give it back to the Excel sheet. Please try out different examples. If you face any issues, just let me know in the comment section and I'll be happy to post a video for you. Thank you so much.